This AgVision program is made possible through the generous support of Syngenta Seeds NK brand, the results you need, the freedom to choose. And by Farms.com, ag news, market prices, ag careers, and farm real estate. You'll find it all at Farms.com. And by FarmCenter.com. It's the only farm management resource center you need. It's been nearly 15 years since the first genetically modified crops were grown commercially in Canada. Many canola, soybean, and corn producers have embraced herbicide tolerance and pest protection traits. But what does the next wave of biotechnology look like? We were introduced briefly to Gord Surgeoner in the feature you saw just before the break. He is president of Ontario Agri-Food Technologies and joins us today from Guelph. Gord, you mentioned in that piece that the next wave of biotechnology traits will extend well beyond agronomic advances. Can you expand on that a bit?
Well, one of them, Kevin, is agronomic. As you indicated, right now most of the technology is associated with pests. We're moving very, very rapidly to adding traits to plants that increase their tolerance to drought, water efficiency, salt tolerance, cold temperature tolerance. So from an agronomic standpoint, we will be embracing products that make the crops grow better under adverse environments. So when you hear about droughts in China and Brazil and Argentina, you will get much better crop yields than you would have if we did not have those traits in those crops. Mm-hmm. And the other is what we call output traits. So we actually change the profiles, like the oil profiles or starch profiles of various commercial products for new end-use markets. So, for example, and it's not by transgenics, but we have soybeans coming out now that have the same oil profile of olive oil. We're eliminating the trans fats in many of our vegetable oils through genetics, not through processing. Similarly on starches, we can change in potatoes the different levels of starch so that we can use certain products for industrial uses and certain products specifically for the food industry. And you will grow potatoes that will end up being coatings on paper, and you will also have your same table potatoes, French fries, and potato chips. It's that kind of output trait. Some of you may have heard about new tomatoes with very enhanced levels of anthocyanins and lycopenes for health. Golden rice looks like it may get some regulatory approval in the Far East in 2011, and that will be a major influence on vitamin A deficiency in those populations. So again, output traits that reflect higher value for health to the consumer.
So you're talking about output traits. Is that part of the reason that genetically modified had such a bumpy ride at the beginning, because there really didn't appear to be that many apparent benefits to the end user, as opposed to output traits which appear they do have end use benefits?
I think that is one of the key factors. I mean, at the end of the day, when a consumer buys a product, you ask the question, what's in it for me? So is it less expensive? Is it better quality? Or does it give me some traits that will, for example, protect my health? We provided traits to the customer who was the farmer, the direct customer, and that did end up in higher yields, lower fuel. I mean, the reason we have so much no-till now in Ontario is because of some of these traits, and that's really improved soil quality and reduced erosion, but the consumer doesn't see those traits. So some of these traits are for the end-use consumer now.
When we're talking about the consumer and about perception of this, what is your take on the perception of genetically modified? There was Ontario Farm Animal Council did a study in 2006 and showed about 6% of respondents were concerned about GMOs. If I can put it in these terms, is that battle over?
I think the battle for what I will call the current crops that have these, they have been embraced by farmers, as you indicated, with very high levels in our corn, soybeans, canola as an example. In some jurisdictions like Europe, it is still hard, but last year there were some 13 million farmers around the world who used these crops. Cotton is another major crop with this technology. Mm-hmm. And the acreages continue to go higher around the world. So I do believe that we have to maintain our regulatory vigilance, because if something does go wrong, then it will be all over the press, and rightfully so. But if you look at it now, I think one of the other things that's on side is history. As you indicated, we've now had 15 years of the product, and to my knowledge and to every medical authority I know, there is no validated case of human illness associated with this technology.
Let's go back to what the new wave of biotech might mean for the farmer. Do you foresee a time when, just like when you buy a car and you say, well, I want this option and I want this color of paint and I want leather interior, do you see farmers selecting various traits just in that fashion, and how will that impact farm management, do you think?
Well, it will make farm management more complex, but at the end of the day, the farmer has to be rewarded for what I will call the identity preservation. If I use soybeans as an example, right now we have the largest manufacturer of car seats in the world now, with 20% of the foam in those seats coming from soybeans. But he needs a certain kind of soybean oil, and when I said to him, what kind of soybean oil do you want, he said, soybean oil. Like, he had no idea that we could produce different levels and different compounds within those through breeding, and some of that is pure selective breeding. But at the end of the day, too, we want low linolenic and low trans fats for the consumers. So you may be, at the end of the day, growing a soybean that will end up in the food market or a soybean that will end up in the foam market. But to me, it's no different than how we grow identity preserved beans today.
Yeah.